Let's talk about USA basketball. Did a video yesterday afternoon late that Caitlin Clark is among a number of participants that's headed to the senior training camp for Team USA. Now, I would assume, right? Oh, they've learned all kinds of lessons.
There are moments in sports when a single decision sends shockwaves through an entire league, shaking the foundations of everything fans thought they understood. And today, once again, USA Basketball has managed to unleash that chaos. Just when supporters believed the organization had finally learned from its past mistakes, another baffling move has reignited a storm of outrage. It all began with what should have been a celebratory moment. Caitlin Clark, the most visible, impactful, and globally recognized name in women's basketball, was announced as a participant for the upcoming senior training camp. Fans were thrilled, hopeful even, daring to believe that USA Basketball had finally acknowledged the magnitude of her influence. But that hope lasted barely a breath, because moments later, a new promotional graphic surfaced, supposedly welcoming the athletes heading to camp. And as millions of eyes scanned the image, one thing became instantly, painfully obvious. Caitlin Clark, the athlete who single-handedly reignited nationwide interest in the sport, the player who shattered ratings records and brought unprecedented visibility to women's basketball, was nowhere to be found. Not a glimpse, not a shadow, not even a courtesy placement in the corner. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an oversight. It felt intentional, a calculated benching wrapped in silence. A move that instantly ignited fury across the internet. Fans erupted. Critics erupted. Even supporters of other players were left stunned. How could USA Basketball, after everything that happened during the Olympic roster fiasco, make the same blunder again? This wasn't just a promotional mishap. It was a message, a loud one, a message that said her popularity is a problem, not an opportunity. A message that said the most iconic player in the sport's modern era is still seen as expendable. And for millions of viewers who tuned in because of her, who bought tickets because of her, who rediscovered the sport because of her, it stung like betrayal. USA Basketball opened the door for healing, for progress, for growth. Then they slammed it shut again, leaving fans asking one baffling question. What are we doing? To understand why this latest incident exploded so violently, you have to look back at the moment that still burns in the minds of fans worldwide, the Olympic roster snub. It was a decision that stunned the sports world, a moment so incomprehensible that even major figures across professional athletics openly questioned USA Basketball's judgment. Caitlin Clark, the athlete who had been breaking barriers faster than the league could acknowledge them, was left off the Olympic team. Not just overlooked, but erased from a global stage she had rightfully earned. The backlash was immediate and overwhelming. It wasn't just fans who were outraged. The head of the 2028 Olympics, a man whose primary mission is to build excitement and maximize global reach, called the decision a terrible mistake. Adam Silver, one of the most influential voices in basketball, said plainly that USA Basketball missed a landmark opportunity to elevate women's sports to unprecedented heights. And he wasn't exaggerating. Everyone knew Clark's presence could have skyrocketed television ratings, shattered modern records, and pushed the sport into an entirely new era. But instead of embracing the momentum, USA Basketball treated her popularity like a liability. They acted as if her massive audience was something to fear rather than leverage. The message fans heard loud and clear was that growth wasn't a priority, that visibility wasn't a priority, that the future of the sport wasn't a priority. Tradition, favoritism, internal politics, those seemed to matter more. And the consequences were brutal. Viewership for women's basketball during the Olympics plummeted. Fans boycotted the games, choosing not to support an organization that refused to recognize the player responsible for bringing them to the sport in the first place. The data didn't lie. The absence of Caitlin Clark wasn't just a PR disaster. It was a measurable financial and cultural setback. Yet here we are again, watching the same movie, the same missteps, the same stubborn refusal to adapt. The Olympic snub wasn't a one-time mistake. It was the first chapter in an ongoing story of resistance, a story that USA Basketball refuses to rewrite. And the latest graphic, the latest slight, was just another painful reminder that the lesson still hasn't landed. Just when fans thought USA Basketball had finally turned a corner, just when Caitlin Clark's invitation to the senior training camp seemed like progress, a single image blew everything apart. A promotional graphic meant to welcome players to camp began circulating online. At first glance, it looked harmless. 3 athletes, all talented, all respected, smiling into the camera. But the problem wasn't who was included. It was who wasn't. The face missing from the lineup was the one the entire world expected to see. Caitlin Clark, the most visible, influential, and globally recognized women's basketball player of the modern era, was nowhere to be found. Not even in the background, not even in a corner. Just completely gone, like she didn't exist. The silence in that empty space was deafening. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a casual oversight. Fans immediately understood the message. It felt deliberate, calculated, like another attempt to bench the player who has done more for the sport in 18 months than most organizations have achieved in decades. The reaction was swift and explosive. Overnight, social media lit up. Accusations of disrespect, jealousy, and internal politics flooded every platform. Supporters felt blindsided and betrayed. Even people who weren't followers of women's basketball were asking why the sport's biggest star had once again been erased from its own promotion. And then came the post from acclaimed sports journalist Christine Brennan, the one that truly poured gasoline on the fire. She pointed out the obvious. If USA Basketball truly wanted to grow the sport, if they genuinely cared about reaching new fans, then Clark should have been the centerpiece of that graphic. Not missing, not sidelined, but front and center, exactly where the biggest star belongs. Her words hit like a hammer, and the internet agreed. Brennan's post went viral, racking up hundreds of thousands of views and forcing USA Basketball onto the defensive. Instead of leaning into the movement that Clark created, USA Basketball chose to shrink away from it. They hid behind familiar excuses, vague statements, and the same empty smiles that fans have grown tired of. And as the criticism mounted, the organization did what organizations usually do when they know they have messed up. They began quietly deleting posts, scrubbing comments, and hoping the outrage would fade. But this time, it didn't. Fans had seen enough. This wasn't just a mistake, it was a pattern. A pattern of resistance, of insecurity, of refusing to embrace the athlete who is single-handedly pushing the sport into a global spotlight. And one thing became painfully clear. The problem was bigger than a graphic. It was systemic. Long before this latest controversy, the wound was already open. The Olympic snub, quite possibly the most baffling and self-destructive decision in USA Basketball's modern history, still hangs over the sport like a storm cloud. Fans have not forgotten it. Broadcasters have not forgotten it. Powerful voices across the sports world have not forgotten it. Because it wasn't just a roster decision, it was a global embarrassment. When Caitlin Clark was left off the Olympic team, the backlash was immediate and overwhelming. The outrage didn't come only from die-hard Clark supporters. It came from sports analysts, commentators, industry leaders, and even executives with direct stakes in the games. The man overseeing the 2028 Olympics said publicly that leaving Clark off the roster was a terrible mistake. His message was direct and blunt. Her absence meant missed revenue, missed engagement, missed growth. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver echoed that sentiment. He recognized what so many fans had been screaming from the rooftops. Caitlin Clark wasn't just a good addition. She was the engine that could have expanded women's basketball worldwide. Her participation would have been a catalyst for audience growth at a scale never seen before. This wasn't speculation. This was measurable brand building on a global stage. And it was wasted. Viewers agreed. They didn't just express frustration. They acted on it. Many fans refused to watch the Olympic women's basketball games entirely. The decline in viewership was undeniable. The numbers painted a brutal picture. People were tuning out because the one player capable of drawing massive audiences was not there. The impact wasn't hypothetical. It was real, immediate, and severe. And it should have been a wake-up call. a warning, a flashing red light. Yet, instead of learning from the fallout, instead of acknowledging the power Clark brings, USA Basketball doubled down. The graphic with her missing face only reinforced what fans already suspected. This wasn't incompetence. It wasn't miscommunication. It was a pattern of resistance against the very player who could revolutionize the sport. A refusal to adapt, to evolve, to see beyond the politics of the past. What makes the situation even more perplexing is that every metric supports Clark's rising influence. Her games break ratings records. Her merchandise outsells entire teams. Her name trends globally. She brings in fans who never watched basketball before. She is both a star and a bridge, connecting the sport to audiences long ignored or untapped. Yet the organizations benefiting the most from her presence appear to resent the very success she brings. The Olympic snub proved that disconnect loud and clear. Now, this latest controversy confirms that the gap between what fans want and what USA Basketball chooses is growing wider. And unless something changes, the sport risks falling into a cycle of self-inflicted damage. When the new USA Basketball promotional graphic dropped, fans expected one thing: a clear, proud, undeniable welcome to the sport's biggest star. Instead, what they saw was a glaring omission that felt less like an accident and more like a statement. The faces highlighted were talented athletes, no doubt, but the one face the entire world expected to see was missing. The reaction was instant and explosive. People didn't hesitate. Social media erupted with disbelief, anger, and accusations of deliberate disrespect. The outrage wasn't subtle. It was volcanic. How could USA Basketball once again sideline the very player responsible for bringing unprecedented attention to women's basketball, especially after the Olympic fiasco? The organization did not explain. No comment. No clarification. Their silence spoke louder than any press release ever could. Fans saw the pattern repeating itself. Clark was being sidelined again, and this time the snub felt even more pointed. Christine Brennan, one of the most respected sports journalists in America, was among the first to call out the glaring problem. Her post went viral immediately. If USA Basketball genuinely cared about growing the sport, she argued, they would have centered Clark on that graphic without hesitation. Her words cut sharply because they were true. The reaction numbers proved it. Over 250,000 views poured in, all spotlighting the tone deafness of the promotional rollout. And USA Basketball reacted in the most revealing way possible. They began quietly pulling their own posts down, not explaining them, not defending them, just erasing them. A move that only made fans angrier and confirmed the suspicion that someone inside the organization was treating Clark as a threat, not an asset. The main post stayed up, but the sentiment beneath it was pitch black. Thousands of negative comments flooded the feed, dragging the engagement into the dirt. This wasn't just a marketing misstep. It was a public relations disaster. Another moment where USA Basketball seemed utterly disconnected from the reality of its own audience. A moment that once again asked the same haunting question. Do they actually want to grow women's basketball, or are they determined to stifle it at all costs? The fuse was lit, the fire was spreading, and the damage was already done. While some critics tried insisting the outrage was exaggerated, the data said otherwise. Hard numbers revealed the truth with brutal clarity. When Clark was left off the Olympic roster, viewership for Fever Games plummeted. Not by a few percentage points, not by normal fluctuations, by a staggering, industry-shaking margin. A documented drop of over 50% slammed into the ratings the moment fans realized Clark wasn't going to the Olympics. That decline wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't random. It was direct cause and effect. It was proof that Clark isn't just another player. She is the gravitational center of the sport right now. You remove her and audiences evaporate. You include her and numbers explode upward. This isn't opinion. It's analytics. It's marketing. It's business. And yet USA Basketball behaves as if this reality is optional. As if ignoring the economic engine of the sport is a noble stance instead of a catastrophic mistake. Broadcasters understand Clark's power. Networks have felt the surge she brings. Tickets sell. Merchandise sells. Conversations trend. She is a rare phenomenon who elevates everything around her. There are very few athletes in history who do that. And when one emerges, organizations usually build entire ecosystems around them. Instead, Clark finds herself swimming against an internal current within the sport she is carrying on her back. And that is what infuriates fans most. She isn't being embraced. She's being treated like a problem, like a disruption to an old guard that refuses to accept that a new era has arrived. The resentment feels palpable. The jealousy feels real. And the pattern is impossible to ignore. USA Basketball seems determined to prioritize sentimentality, politics, and comfort zones over facts, numbers, and undeniable momentum. This resistance isn't just petty. It's costly. Every time they minimize Clark, they minimize their own success. Every time they sideline her, they sideline the future of the sport. And fans are tired of watching the same mistake replayed in slow motion again and again. The Clark effect is not a theory. It is a measurable force. A force the entire world can see, except, apparently, the very organization that needs it the most. Behind the scenes, the whispers are getting louder. The conversations no one wants to have publicly are happening everywhere privately. Analysts, executives, former players, coaches, fans. Everyone is noticing the same unsettling trend. There is a faction within the WNBA and USA Basketball that seems resistant, even hostile, to the rise of Caitlin Clark. Not because she isn't talented, not because she isn't marketable, but because she is too talented, too marketable, too influential. The old guard is not built for this kind of spotlight landing on a single player. For years, the league tried to push different stars, different personalities, hoping someone would finally ignite mainstream interest. Then Caitlin Clark arrived and did in months what others couldn't do in seasons. Instead of celebration, her meteoric rise has created friction. Some players drop passive-aggressive comments. Coaches whisper frustrations. Even the new Team USA coach is accused of smiling in public while resenting her in private. Whether every rumor is true or exaggerated doesn't matter. The perception exists because the pattern exists, and perception is powerful. Each questionable decision fuels the same questions. Is this politics, bias, ego, jealousy? Is the league afraid of letting one superstar lead the sport into a new era? Is someone protecting the old hierarchy instead of embracing the future? These doubts only grow because USA Basketball's choices consistently go against business logic, fan demand, and global growth. This doesn't look like simple mistakes anymore. Fans see it as deliberate resistance. And if that is the case, women's basketball doesn't have a talent problem. It has a leadership problem. This moment is bigger than another controversy. It feels like a crossroads. Caitlin Clark is not just a great player. She is the phenomenon that has expanded the sport faster than anyone expected. She brings new viewers, new sponsors, new markets. She is the engine, and the world sees it clearly. What no one understands is why USA Basketball keeps pretending otherwise. Every time they minimize her, hide her, or push her aside, they hurt the sport's long-term future. Fans will not tolerate another Olympic-level mistake, another omission, another snub. If it happens again, people will call it sabotage, not oversight, and the backlash will be enormous. This is USA Basketball's chance to reset, to rise above politics, to align with the future instead of fighting it. Caitlin Clark has already carried the sport into a new era. The only question left is simple. Will USA Basketball move forward with her or keep standing in her way? Because the world is watching.
Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more dives into Hollywood's hidden history.